It's clear that you're putting in a lot of effort for others to recognize your value. Perhaps you're investing a significant amount of energy in sending messages, making calls, and trying to keep people close. But have you ever considered that, when trying to get the attention of someone new, someone who hasn't yet realized your importance, this approach might not be the most effective? We often believe that maintaining a connection requires constant communication, always being available, and showing how much we care. However, this behavior can backfire. The more you try to prove your worth through words and presence, the less impact you might have. Constantly seeking validation doesn't just drain your energy, it can also diminish how others perceive you. By insisting on staying in touch and always being available, you transfer power to the other person while weakening your own autonomy. Now, imagine you're dealing with the growing distance of someone close to you, maybe a partner or a significant person in your life. In these situations, it's natural to feel compelled to search for explanations, question what changed, and try to fix things by sending frequent messages or constantly checking if something is wrong. But reflect on this: what happened when you've tried that before? Experience shows that excessive explanations or attempts to fix the situation through words tend to push the other person further away. The key to handling these moments lies in understanding that it's not through explanations that you reconnect with someone. In fact, it's through intentional absence and strategic silence that you can provoke genuine reflection in the other person. Many people mistakenly believe that if they don't communicate frequently, they'll lose the person they want to keep around. This belief stems from the common misconception that constant communication equates to care and value. However, this assumption can be flawed. The more predictable you become, the less the other person values your presence. When you're always available and respond immediately, you give everything away freely, denying the other person the opportunity to experience the impact of your absence. True strength lies in allowing them to feel what it's like when you're not there. This isn't about manipulation, it's about understanding that giving space creates healthier dynamics. If you're trying to attract someone new, for example, instead of initiating every conversation and leading every interaction, try giving them space to come to you. Similarly, if someone close to you is becoming distant, it may be time to stop sending that next message or seeking yet another explanation. In these situations, silence can become a powerful tool that shifts perceptions and dynamics in the relationship. When you step back and allow silence to take the place of words, the effect can be immediate. The other person starts to notice the absence of your attention and may begin to question the reason for it. This creates a shift in the dynamic, one that forces them to reflect and reassess. It's in these moments that silence reveals its true power. The person begins to recognize the value of your presence, not through what you say, but through what they feel in your absence. Silence is an incredibly useful tool in relationships because it encourages the other person to think more deeply about the situation. It allows you to regain control and position yourself with more authenticity and confidence. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, silence is safer than speech. The moment you stop communicating constantly, you stop giving away your power, and you reclaim control over your emotions and actions. Your worth isn't determined by how often you speak or how frequently you communicate. Instead, by demonstrating that you don't depend on others' approval to feel good about yourself, you strengthen your position and make your presence more valuable. When you stop chasing validation, you create room for the other person to feel the absence of your attention. It's in that space that a genuine reconnection can occur, along with a renewed appreciation for what you bring to their life. This doesn't mean you should remain silent indefinitely, passively waiting for people to come back to you. It's not about taking a passive stance, but about using silence strategically and with purpose. The goal is to create a healthy balance, where your presence is noticed and valued without unnecessary effort. Using silence strategically doesn't mean manipulating or trying to control the other person. It's about embodying confidence and self-sufficiency, showing that you value yourself and don't need constant attention to feel whole. When silence is applied intentionally, it can speak louder than any words and leave a lasting impression. Let's now explore a crucial Stoic principle in relationships: silence in the face of rejection or disinterest. This is one of the hardest lessons to practice, but also one of the most effective in preserving emotional integrity. When someone expresses disinterest or rejection, the natural reaction is often to try and fix things right away. The temptation to explain, justify, or push for a different outcome can be overwhelming. However, every word you say in these moments can have the opposite effect of what you intend. Rather than bringing the person closer, it can push them further away. This is because, in trying to convince someone to change their mind, you send a message that their validation is essential to your sense of self-worth, which weakens your position and gives them more power over you. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that we have no control over others' behavior, only over how we respond. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When faced with rejection or disinterest, the most powerful response is silence. By choosing not to react, you maintain your dignity and autonomy, affirming that your value isn't tied to someone else's approval. Silence, in this context, becomes a way of respecting yourself and conserving your energy. It subtly communicates that you won't chase after someone who doesn't recognize your worth. Instead of insisting, you give them the opportunity to experience your absence, and in that absence, they might realize just how valuable you are. When confronted with distancing or rejection, remember this: insisting doesn't make you more valued. Instead, use silence as a way to restore balance and demonstrate your worth. This approach not only reinforces your self-esteem but also creates healthier dynamics in your relationships. In these moments, do nothing. No messages, no calls, no long explanations or emotional appeals. Simply step back and reclaim your balance. It's natural to feel that silence might seem like giving up or letting someone slip away without resistance. But the truth is that silence is one of the most powerful tools you can use in the face of rejection or disinterest. It allows you to maintain your dignity, control your emotions, and shift the power dynamic in your favor. By choosing silence, you interrupt an emotionally draining dynamic. First, you stop feeding the need for validation, preventing your ego from becoming captive to the situation. Other people, in turn, believe they've made a final decision and expect you to react predictably, to chase after them. When you don't respond the way they anticipate, a sense of uncertainty sets in. They begin to wonder, why didn't they try harder? Why didn't they ask for attention? Did they not value me enough to persist? This kind of doubt shifts the dynamic in the relationship, as now you're in control without saying a word. At the same time, this quiet approach protects your self-esteem and keeps your dignity intact. Maintaining silence isn't just a tactic to create doubt or make others reassess their choices, it's also an effective way to preserve your own sense of worth. Stoic philosophy teaches that building emotional resilience is essential, that is, the ability to remain steady even in unfavorable circumstances. Someone else's rejection isn't a reflection of your personal worth, it's simply a manifestation of their preferences, which are subject to change. By refraining from impulsive reactions, you demonstrate emotional control, integrity, and self-respect. This shows that you are not defined by someone else's decisions, but by how you behave and respond to situations. Imagine you're seeing someone, and after a few promising dates, they start pulling away. Messages become less frequent, and when they do arrive, the energy feels off. The most common response is to panic, sending more messages, looking for explanations, or asking, "Is everything okay? Did I do something wrong?" While these questions might come from genuine concern, they are often perceived as signs of desperation. And desperation is one of the quickest ways to diminish attraction. When someone feels pressured or pursued, they tend to pull away even more. Now, let's consider a calmer, stoic approach. Instead of chasing after them, you step back. No explanations, no dramatic gestures, just silence. This action sends a powerful message: I respect myself enough not to pursue someone who isn't showing interest. Additionally, it shows that you're in control of your emotions and that someone else's indifference doesn't define your value. When people pull away, it's often a test, consciously or not. They want to see how far they can push and how much emotional control you have. Responding with silence disrupts this power game. It signals that you won't allow your emotions to be manipulated, forcing the other person to reconsider their actions. In this way, silence becomes a powerful form of expression. It communicates confidence, emotional resilience, and independence, qualities that are both attractive and uncommon. While others might chase after lost attention, you remain steady, showing that you aren't afraid to move forward. This often prompts the other person to reflect on what they might be losing and rethink their choices. Although silence can sometimes provoke the other person to return, there are no guarantees. But that's not the point. The true purpose of silence is to preserve your dignity and maintain control, regardless of how the other person responds. You're no longer playing by their rules, you're following your own, reaffirming that your worth isn't tied to someone else's interest or approval. The next time you encounter rejection or emotional distance, remember, silence may be your best response. It doesn't mean you're giving up or walking away without reason. It means you're prioritizing your emotional well-being and protecting your personal power. Allow them to feel your absence and reflect on your silence. Observe how the dynamic shifts in your favor. Ultimately, the goal isn't to bring the other person back, it's to prove to yourself that you don't need to chase anyone to feel complete. This is the true power of silence. Affirm this to yourself: silence is powerful. Whenever you feel the urge to react, explain, or seek immediate resolution, pause. Remember that real power lies in mastering your emotions and letting silence speak for you. Silence preserves your dignity, enhances your value, and transforms the dynamics of your interactions. In moments when others expect you to react, silence becomes a meaningful and powerful response. It creates space for the other person to feel your absence and, in that absence, to understand your worth. Strategy number 2, use silence at the right moment. Let's dive deeper into the concept of letting silence speak when a reaction is expected. This strategy is especially effective in moments of conflict or emotional tension. Imagine you're in a conversation, and the other person makes a rude or provoking comment, expecting a response from you. They anticipate that you'll defend yourself, apologize, or react emotionally. Instead of reacting, you choose silence. This choice is highly effective because it disarms the other person. Society conditions us to expect immediate responses, whether to defend, argue, or justify. When someone tries to provoke you and receives no reaction, it leaves a lasting impact. By refusing to engage, you demonstrate that your emotions are not easily manipulated by others. This stance communicates inner strength and emotional stability. Silence sends a clear message: I don't need to react to validate my emotions or justify myself. It also signals that you're in control of the situation and won't give the other person the satisfaction of seeing you unsettled. Conclusion: the power of silence in relationships. In summary, silence can be one of the most impactful tools in situations involving conflict, distance, or rejection. It protects your emotional integrity, highlights your inner strength, and shifts the balance of power in your favor. In moments when everyone expects you to react, silence becomes the most powerful response you can offer. Choosing silence doesn't mean ignoring or avoiding challenges, it's about acting with purpose and composure. It allows you to stay true to your values while maintaining your peace of mind. Silence creates space for reflection, encourages others to reconsider their actions, and helps you navigate relationships with confidence and clarity. Whenever you feel the urge to react impulsively or explain yourself, take a breath and embrace the power of silence. It will serve you better than any hasty response. In that quiet, you reclaim your power, demonstrate your self-worth, and create space for meaningful change. In the end, remember, silence isn't about manipulation or playing emotional games. It's a deliberate practice of self-control and self-respect. It allows you to assert yourself without words, preserving your dignity and reaffirming your value. So, whenever you feel the impulse to react impulsively, take a deep breath and choose silence. This is true emotional strength, controlling yourself and allowing silence to speak for you when needed. Imagine you're in the middle of an intense conflict with someone, perhaps your partner or someone you're interested in. During the argument, they say something hurtful, aimed at triggering an emotional response. Most people, in such situations, would respond immediately, either defending themselves or retaliating. But instead of being carried away by the emotional weight of the moment, you choose silence, you take a deep breath, pause, and let the moment settle without saying a word. This strategic choice has a powerful effect. When you don't react as expected, the other person is forced to confront the situation on their own. Your silence encourages them to reflect on their behavior and wonder why you didn't respond the way they anticipated. This space of uncertainty makes them uncomfortable, as they no longer have control over your emotions. With this silent stance, you shift the power dynamic. You demonstrate that you won't be easily manipulated or driven to react impulsively, reinforcing your self-control. Additionally, silence gives you time to evaluate the situation more clearly. During this time, the other person may realize they were unfair, insensitive, or that their words and actions were unnecessary. Silence forces the other person to reflect on their behavior without requiring you to argue or justify yourself. In many cases, this quiet pause is enough for them to reconsider their actions and change their approach. Stoic philosophy encourages this practice. Mastering impulsive reactions and choosing silence over emotional responses is a sign of maturity and self-discipline. The ability to remain silent during tense situations demonstrates emotional strength. It shows that you won't allow others to have power over your emotions or drag you into unnecessary conflicts. In relationships, this approach communicates self-respect and confidence, qualities essential for maintaining healthy, balanced connections. The next time someone tries to provoke a reaction from you, remember the power that silence holds. When the other person expects you to defend yourself, retaliate, or engage in an argument, surprise them with calmness and silence. Let your silence do the work and watch how it changes the dynamics of the conflict. Silence can be your most effective response. The power of silence in shaping perception of value. Let's explore how silence can make someone recognize the importance of your presence. This is one of the most powerful tools in any relationship, whether it's the beginning of a connection or an attempt to rekindle something with someone who seems distant. Silence has the potential to completely change how others perceive you. On the other hand, being constantly available, over-communicating, or persistently seeking attention can have the opposite effect. When you're always present, the other person begins to take your attention for granted. There's no urgency, no space for them to miss you, because they know you'll always be there, ready and available. However, when you step back and allow silence to fill the space once occupied by your words and presence, something shifts. The other person starts to notice the difference, and that's when the opportunity arises for them to feel your absence. Think back to a time when you felt the loss of someone important in your life. It wasn't because they were constantly around or demanding your attention, it was because, in their absence, you had the space to reflect on the impact they had. This space for reflection is exactly what silence creates. Now, consider this situation: you were in regular contact with someone, but over time, the enthusiasm faded, and their responses slowed down. Most people, in this scenario, panic and try to compensate by sending even more messages, asking what went wrong, and seeking explanations. However, the most effective response is the opposite: step back and let silence speak for you. At first, cutting back on messages and conversations may feel strange, like you're doing nothing when you should be taking action. But this is precisely where the real power of silence lies. Silence isn't passive, it's a deliberate, conscious decision. By giving the other person space, you allow them to realize that your attention isn't something they can take for granted. Over time, silence sparks curiosity. The other person begins to wonder why you stopped texting or calling. This uncertainty creates a desire for answers. Why did you pull away? Has something changed? Was the connection lost? This empty space is filled with questions that can lead to deeper reflection about the value you bring. Silence also helps re-establish your value. When you're always available and easily accessible, it sends the message that your time and attention are easy to obtain. However, by becoming less present, you create a new perception: your presence is valuable, something worth earning. This shift renews the other person's interest and makes them appreciate your attention more. In a world where everyone is constantly vying to be heard, the ability to choose silence sets you apart. It demonstrates confidence, emotional control, and independence. You show that you don't need external validation to feel whole and that you're comfortable giving the other person space to reflect on the value of your presence. Silence as a tool for setting boundaries. Finally, silence is also an essential tool for setting boundaries. It allows you to establish your limits without needing to justify or defend them. When someone crosses a boundary, responding with silence communicates that your boundary is non-negotiable and doesn't require further discussion. In relationships, setting boundaries is key to maintaining respect and balance. Silence reinforces those boundaries without creating unnecessary conflict. It signals that you value your time, energy, and emotional well-being. Conclusion: mastering the art of silence. Silence isn't just the absence of words, it's a powerful tool that can transform relationships and strengthen your emotional well-being. Whether you're dealing with conflict, distance, or rejection, choosing silence is a way to maintain control, preserve your dignity, and encourage meaningful reflection. The next time you feel the urge to react, explain, or pursue answers, pause and embrace the power of silence. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but in that quiet, you reclaim your power and show that your worth doesn't depend on others. Silence preserves your dignity, highlights your value, and shifts the dynamics of your interactions in your favor. In moments when others expect a reaction, silence becomes your most powerful response. It creates space for the other person to feel your absence, and, in that absence, to recognize your true worth. Using silence to set clear boundaries in relationships. Silence can also be a powerful tool for establishing clear boundaries in relationships. Setting boundaries is essential for maintaining respect and balance, whether in a new connection or a long-term relationship. However, many people make the mistake of over-explaining or justifying their boundaries, which can weaken their position. The real power lies in setting your boundaries clearly and then letting silence reinforce your message. Imagine a situation where someone crosses the boundaries you've already communicated, demanding more of your time, energy, or attention than you are willing to give. If you've already made your limits clear and the person continues to push, the next step is silence. This silence isn't about ignoring the other person but rather a demonstration that you value and respect your own boundaries enough not to engage in unnecessary discussion. By not reacting, you make it clear that there's no room for negotiation or manipulation. Silence communicates that your boundaries are firm and non-negotiable. Conclusion: the transformative power of silence. Silence is more than just the absence of words, it's a deliberate and powerful strategy. It preserves your dignity, reinforces your value, and creates space for others to reflect on their actions. Whether you're facing conflict, moments of distance, or the need to set boundaries, silence is a crucial tool for maintaining emotional balance and integrity. The next time you feel the urge to react or seek immediate answers, pause and let silence do the work. It's often more effective than any explanation and far more powerful than engaging in arguments. With silence, you not only demonstrate self-control but also enhance your value in the eyes of others. Many people feel compelled to justify their decisions when saying no or setting limits. They explain their reasons in detail, hoping the other person will understand. However, the more you explain yourself, the more you weaken your position. When you set a boundary, there's no need to justify it. In fact, offering explanations might suggest that your boundaries are flexible, leaving room for negotiation or unwanted compromise. When you set a boundary and follow it with silence, the message becomes clear and firm: this is my limit, and it's not open for discussion. For example, if someone constantly asks for favors that drain your energy or demands more attention than you can give, instead of saying, "I'm exhausted, I have a lot going on, and I'd love to help, but I can't," simply say, "I'm not available for that." And leave it at that. No justifications, just silence. This silence reinforces your boundary and shows that you are confident in your decision. When the other person hears no explanations, they realize there's no room for negotiation. Silence makes them uncomfortable because they were expecting a justification, and this absence of words forces them to respect your decision. At first, it may be challenging, especially if you're used to explaining yourself to ease the discomfort of others. However, adopting this stance demonstrates self-respect and emotional maturity. Setting clear boundaries without justifying yourself promotes healthier, more balanced relationships. Another key benefit of using silence to set boundaries is that it gives the other person the time they need to process your decision. When you fill the conversation with explanations, the other person may focus on your reasons, looking for loopholes or ways to convince you to change your mind. But by remaining silent, you force them to confront the boundary itself, without distractions or arguments. Stoic philosophy teaches that controlling our responses is essential for preserving inner peace. When you choose silence after setting a boundary, you demonstrate confidence in your values and show that you don't need external approval. It's not about seeking validation, it's about asserting your needs and respecting yourself. The next time you need to establish a boundary, state it clearly and objectively, then let silence do the rest. Allow the other person to feel the firmness of your position and the respect you have for yourself. In this context, silence becomes a powerful ally that strengthens your integrity. Silence as a tool for creating mystery. Silence is also one of the most effective ways to create mystery in relationships. People are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand, and silence subtly cultivates that curiosity, keeping the other person intrigued. Using silence strategically isn't just about holding back words, it's about introducing a healthy sense of unpredictability that sparks interest. When you're getting to know someone and share every detail about your life and feelings too early, you remove the element of surprise and exhaust curiosity. On the other hand, when you withhold certain information and allow silence to fill moments of interaction, you create a space of uncertainty that keeps the other person interested. This silence encourages them to wonder, what are they thinking? How do they feel? What's coming next? This approach isn't about manipulation, it's about keeping part of yourself reserved. Silence offers space for the other person to reflect and feel curious about you. This curiosity and desire to understand you better nurtures emotional engagement and keeps their interest alive. Additionally, silence can be powerful by creating mystery through absence. Not always being available, leaving some conversations unfinished, or allowing time between responses can build anticipation. And this anticipation, in turn, creates tension, and tension is one of the key elements of attraction. Stoic philosophy teaches us to be deliberate in our actions and words. Sometimes, saying less or saying nothing is more powerful than filling every moment with conversation. By maintaining a degree of mystery, you retain control over what others know about you and keep them wanting more. So, the next time you feel the urge to share every detail or fill every silence, remember the power of mystery. Silence is magnetic, keeping people drawn in. Let it do its work, and watch how it stirs curiosity and draws the other person closer. Silence as a way to break patterns. Silence can also be a powerful tool for breaking repetitive patterns in a relationship. Over time, many relationships fall into predictable cycles, the same conflicts, the same responses, and the same emotional dynamics. If these patterns aren't interrupted, they can lead to stagnation and even become toxic. This is where silence can reset the energy between you and the other person. Imagine that every time a disagreement arises, a specific pattern repeats, the other person criticizes, and you immediately become defensive. Or maybe you're always the first to apologize, trying to fix things even when you shouldn't. Now, consider the impact of a sudden change. Instead of defending yourself or apologizing, you choose silence. You take a deep breath and refrain from responding. This silence disrupts the predictable cycle and forces the other person to deal with the moment differently. When you interrupt a pattern with silence, the dynamic shifts entirely. The other person may be compelled to reflect on their behavior instead of relying on the usual routine. Silence creates space for both of you to reconsider your actions and expectations. Moreover, silence can serve as an invitation to change. When you stop responding as expected, the other person is encouraged to rethink their words and actions. This silent pause allows new, healthier dynamics to emerge. Conclusion: silence as a conscious and powerful choice. Silence is not merely the absence of words, it is a deliberate choice that can transform your relationships. It reinforces your boundaries, preserves your value, and create space for reflection and change. Used strategically, silence has the power to break negative cycles, cultivate mystery, and increase attraction. The next time you feel the need to justify a boundary, fill a conversation, or react impulsively, try choosing silence. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, you'll notice how this choice strengthens your position and improves the quality of your relationships. Silence is a subtle yet incredibly powerful tool. When you learn to use silence to your advantage, you gain greater control over your emotions and the dynamics of your interactions. Most importantly, you show that you don't need words to assert your dignity and value. Section 7. Silence as a tool for emotional recovery. Silence is also essential for emotional recovery and maintaining mental health. During moments of conflict, disappointment, or emotional exhaustion, silence offers a safe space to process your emotions without the influence of immediate reactions. Often, when we respond or try to resolve a situation on the spot, we say things we don't mean or make decisions we later regret. Choosing silence allows you to step away from the situation and gain a fresh perspective. It provides the time needed to evaluate your feelings clearly and make more thoughtful decisions. By avoiding impulsive reactions, you not only protect your dignity but also preserve your inner peace. This space of silence is not a sign of weakness or avoidance, it is an act of self-care. Choosing not to react immediately gives you the chance to calm down and handle the situation with balance and clarity. Additionally, this introspection helps you reflect on what truly matters and identify which battles are worth fighting. Section 8. Silence as a way to handle manipulation. Silence is an effective weapon against attempts at manipulation. In many interactions, especially during conflict, the other person may try to provoke a reaction to gain emotional control over you. This provocation can come in the form of insults, criticism, or attempts to shift blame. Their expectation is that you will react, giving them the upper hand in the discussion. However, when you respond with silence, the manipulation loses its power. Your lack of emotional reaction shows that you are not willing to engage in their game. This demonstrates inner strength and the ability to remain calm in the face of provocation. This type of silence is not passive, it is a conscious choice to remain unaffected by others' actions. It also communicates that you don't need to justify your decisions or give in to external pressure to validate yourself. In this way, silence acts as an emotional shield, protecting you from manipulation and maintaining your balance. Section 9. Silence at the end of relationships. When a relationship ends, silence can be the best way to move forward. Although it may be tempting to seek closure or answers from the other person, continuing communication after a breakup often prolongs the pain and delays the healing process. Silence, on the other hand, allows both parties to accept the end and begin emotional recovery. Choosing silence at this time is not about ignoring the pain or suppressing emotions. It's about giving yourself the space to overcome the loss and rediscover your identity. It's also a form of respect, both for yourself and the other person, by avoiding unnecessary conversations that could prolong emotional exhaustion. Additionally, silence gives you the freedom to rebuild your life without the influence of the past. It creates a healthy environment for you to focus on yourself and move forward. Section 10. Silence and the preservation of intimacy. Finally, silence is a powerful tool for preserving intimacy in deep and meaningful relationships. While communication is essential, shared silence also holds a unique value. There are moments when sitting quietly with someone can strengthen the connection more than words ever could. Silence between two people who feel comfortable with each other creates a space of trust. It shows that the other person's presence is enough, without the need to fill every moment with conversation. This is particularly important in long-term relationships, where excessive talk can become noise that weakens the connection. The ability to share moments of silence without discomfort demonstrates that the relationship is strong and that both individuals appreciate each other's presence. This silent intimacy deepens the bond and allows both people to feel accepted and understood. Conclusion: silence as a conscious act of power and balance. Silence is more than just a lack of words, it is a powerful tool that can transform relationships, boost your self-esteem, and preserve your peace of mind. Learning to use silence strategically takes practice, especially if you are used to explaining yourself, reacting quickly, or trying to please others. However, the impact of silence is profound and long-lasting. When you master the art of silence, you gain control over your emotions and the dynamics of your interactions. It allows you to set clear boundaries, create mystery, avoid manipulation, and foster genuine intimacy. Silence is a form of power that doesn't rely on words, but on presence and self-control. The next time you find yourself in a challenging situation, whether it's a conflict, a manipulative interaction, or a strained relationship, try choosing silence. Use it to restore your energy, protect your dignity, and maintain control over your life. Remember, silence is not absence, it is a conscious and strategic presence. When you learn to value and harness that presence, you transform the way you interact with the world and the people around you. Silence is an underrated but deeply powerful tool in managing your emotions and personal boundaries. It's not a sign of weakness, but a clear demonstration of maturity, self-respect, and emotional balance. Knowing when to speak and when to remain silent is a skill that can change not only your relationships but also the way you see yourself. Silence offers room for reflection, reinforces your boundaries, and fosters genuine connection when used wisely. It disrupts negative patterns, preserves your dignity, and creates an aura of personal value and mystery. More importantly, it strengthens your ability to choose the battles that matter and handle challenges with strategy. In the end, silence is about power and control, not over others, but over yourself. By using it consciously, you reclaim control of your emotions, communicate clearly without words, and redefine the dynamics of your relationships. So, whenever you feel the urge to react impulsively, justify yourself, or give in to pressure, remember the power of silence. That it provides a safe space to recover your calm, reorganize your priorities, and demonstrate the strength of someone who doesn't need constant validation. Choosing silence is choosing peace. That it's affirming to yourself that your value isn't dependent on others' expectations, and that you are in control of who you are and what you want. In the end, silence speaks louder than any words, and those who know how to use it will find not only their inner strength but also the respect and admiration of others.